9:38 on the clock. A very, very good morning to you. Hi, and welcome once again to Daybreak with me, Muriel Disa, only on Talk 100.3, part of the Fun Asia network. And now I told you this, that I always live up to my promise. Joining me in for a very, very serious and a timely discussions is about diabetes among the youth. We are joined by none other than Dr. Adeeb Mohammed Hussain, specialist, internal medicine, NMC Medical Center, Buhairah, Corniche in Sharjah. A very good morning to you, doctor, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, doctor, first things first, diabetes among youth. This is a conversation that no matter how much you and I try to impart to the youngsters, but it feels that it's falling on deaf ears. Now, let's break this norm. Is it because of the food that we are eating, or is it just the lifestyle, the food, or is it or you inherit it from your, from the family?
To break down this question, there are three parts in this question. The first thing is the genetics. Yes, definitely when it comes from the parents, it is the youth is more prone to diabetes, the first question. The second thing is the lifestyle. So nowadays the lifestyle, because the problem is we have sedentary lifestyle. The second thing is the food. Most of the food stuff now the youth is preferring is the processed food. Along with that, we have a lot of more of the junk category which is coming into, more of sugars, more of salts. So that is impacting the youth. What we think is youth as a young age we can take whatever we want. The amount of sugar we don't restrict. We consider that only the adult population above 40-45 to cut down the sugars. But the problem is youth has goes out of the way and consume this food stuff, which definitely has a impact at a very young age itself.
But doctor, now let me understand this from you as well, right? I mean, at least our forefathers would tell us, when we were young, we could eat as much as we could and we would burn all the fats and all the calories. But however, the same amount of food, say 20 years ago, if I consume it today and I'm not burning that amount of calories, it's obviously getting stored into my system, which in turn turns into sugar. So could you talk to me about the process? I mean, and the mindset also of the elders that haven't changed really?
If we just go back around 15 to 20 years back, the amount of exercise what our elders used to do, the amount of work what they used to do, that amount of work even we as professionals are not doing. The reason is previously we didn't had the mode of transport was not so well equipped. The people used to walk, people used to stay in villages and they used to walk for 5-6 kilometers. Walking 10 kilometers were a very very normal norm. But nowadays for everything we have public transport, we have our own transport, and the working hours previously were more in the mechanical work. Nowadays it is more of a desk job where you have very limited time for exercise. And second thing is the amount of work and the lifestyle what they used to follow was very much a very disciplined lifestyle. They used to get up early and the food was going to finish by the dinner used to get finished by the 7 o'clock. What we say is what we follow nowadays as intermittent fasting from sunrise to sunset. That was a proper lifestyle the elders used to follow. But nowadays we have the eating pattern is totally different. We skip breakfast, we take heavy lunch and we take a heavy dinner, where the time for metabolism is so slow that we take the heavy meal and sleep immediately, and the duration of the sleep is also reduced, which impacts a lot on the metabolism of the body, which is the main reason for today's diabetic impact. And again about the food, people previously used to eat the food which was grown, but now what we are eating is everything processed, which is very tasty, one thing, and the second thing is it has lot of sugar and lot of sodium, which impacts a lot on the metabolism as well as the diabetic impact of the body. And one more thing I want to add is the processed food, the food that looks too good is always harm to the body.
Doctor, before we move forward, for the ones at least that now would want to know the food, you mentioned about the foods, high in sodium, high in sugar, and the calorie intake as well. So what are the foods, according to you, that are a must intake into your diet to ensure that your blood sugar levels are kept at a bare minimum?
See, first of all, before talking about the food, we should consider the the quantity of the food. See, the portion of the food should always be divided. It is like the first portion should always have the vegetables, the second is the fruits, and the third portion should have our like the protein intake and less of sugars and sodium. So sodium anyhow in like we put in the food in the form of salt. So if we remove the processed food, most of the sodium gets out of it. So the portion of the food should always have a more portion of the vegetables in the form of salads or fresh vegetables or the cooked ones, a portion of protein, and other portion should be the water. So we have to divide the food into three parts. The water also should have the equal part. Then we cut down into the portion of the food, and definitely see the impact of diabetes comes down when we divide the portion into vegetables, protein, and water.
Doctor, what about if, parents are already diabetic, right? That is also a possibility. Now, should I be monitoring my child's blood sugar levels often? Parents are already diabetic. How do I know that my child is not at the helm of it?
There is nothing like you need to regularly check, but one thing you have to keep in mind, when the child is growing, you should see that he doesn't fall sick repeatedly. He does see whenever the weather changes, definitely we do have flu, but at times there are children who fall sick very often, like so 5 times 6 times in a year. When that is the situation, you need to have at least a yearly checkup. When you know, when you have a very strong family history, consider like the father and mother both are diabetic, and if we go back a little, if the grandparents or either side are also diabetic, then it becomes a high chance that the growing child may also have the gene which is responsible to cause diabetes. But again, like if there are no symptoms and he's following a healthy lifestyle, there is no need to check regularly. But now for the present lifestyle regularly, but now for the present lifestyle, the present food stuff, I would consider at least once in a year. A child when reaches around 14 to 15 years, when the workload, like the school load increases and the sports activity comes down, so at least once in a year to have a random check of the sugars is a must.
Doctor, it's very interesting that you've said that if the child falls sick often. How is this linked to diabetes again?
See, diabetes is one thing. When a patient has diabetes, he may have a lot of symptoms, but regularly what we hear is like he's drinking too much water or going for the bathroom more. But again, diabetes is one thing. If you are a diabetic, the immune system gets so low that you may fall sick again. Repeatedly you may fall sick in the form of getting fever repeatedly, getting contracted to even a small virus. If somebody is coughing next to you, you get contracted. If that is your immune system, then definitely the first thing that has to come to your mind is always diabetes, and that too when you have a family history of diabetes.
Doctor, when talking to you about stress and lifestyle, how much does this contribute to the youngsters in them having diabetes in the future?
I would consider stress is the major factor, because we like whenever the stress rate increases, the metabolism also goes very high. So when there is metabolism, see, there is one thing called as the insulin surge. For anything we have, the insulin has to pump in. So when there is a lot of insulin activity going on, so definitely it impacts on the body, which shows in the form of diabetes. So stress is the major reason, even though it doesn't directly impact, but definitely it has an indirect impact on the body. That is the reason for diabetes today.
Absolutely. You're listening to Talk 100.3. My name is Muriel Adisa, and we are alongside Dr. Adeeb Mohammed Hussain, Specialist Internal Medicine, NMC Medical Center, Buhairah, Corniche, Sharjah, talking to us about the way forward. Doctor, besides this, now let's talk to you about the evergreen question, right? A lot of individuals say, yes, today, I went in for my checkup, and this happens to me across all ages, right? I went in for my checkup, and today the doctor said, I don't have diabetes, and I am startled by that. So until yesterday, my blood sugar levels were all topsy-turvy. But today, however, my blood sugar levels are way below. Is that a sign of worry, or should I be happy about it?
Diabetes or the sugar level is a daily thing. It is not like even today I don't have that sugars were normal and tomorrow it will be normal or it will go up. That is not the question. The impact of the blood sugar depends upon the food what we are eating. So suppose we go and test a random sugar in the morning when we have fasted more than 12 to 14 hours, so definitely the next day the sugar level goes down, or the sugar level may be below the normal. So the ideal thing is if you are having few of the symptoms, if you go through there, nowadays there are a lot of things where like you can just read and see which symptoms fit in you. So whenever you are going for a test, just consider like you have a proper heavy meal 8 hours before the test. You go have some sweet. I usually tell my patients that they usually what happens is when they try to bypass the diabetic diagnosis, they have a very light meal, or they
or a sandwich.
yeah, they just fast for more than 10 to 12 hours, and suddenly they go and check, okay, and they say the sugar is on a lower side. It is not like that. See, the proper as per the guidelines is 8 hours of the fasting, and you should have a heavy meal the night before you're going and testing. So again, fasting sugar remains the mainstay of the diagnosis. And if you think you have symptoms and the fasting sugar comes normal, so next thing is the 3 months average, what we call it as HbA1c. That gives you like the average for 3 months 24 hours time. So that could be an ideal thing to get the diagnosis, and if that is normal, then it's well and good.
Absolutely. Now, if you have any questions, keep them in on 0586861003. Very important piece of information that we have around children about, what doctor was talking as to what you should be monitoring in them if they fall sick. And we've got that recorded. If you need that, we'll be more than happy to send that across to you, all courtesy to what the conversation we are having in. Doctor, there is a question that has just come in. Hi, can you check till what age diabetic could be traced, or at any age can it happen?
It can happen at any age. There is no age bar that where you say, okay, after this age you should check. So there is one thing called as type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is again in children. So usually the type 2 diabetes, what we see in adults, has symptoms that are initially very mild or very minor symptoms, and most of the time in adults it is incidentally found. But whereas in the kids, the child gets very sick, the child has a lot of complications, then you land up in the hospital or a clinic setup, and when you randomly check the sugars may be on a very higher side. So there is no cut short age. So whenever you think about you might get like diabetes, or your child might have diabetes, so definitely you just go and get a random check so that the doubt gets cleared.
Absolutely. Hoping that this helped you. Right now, doctor, also, there's something called as gestational diabetes, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So, mothers that are expecting, somehow, their blood sugar levels fluctuate. And does that mean that invariably this is, kind of translated to the child? So how does this really work? Because parents and children now get worried.
So gestational diabetes is the diabetes what we find in the pregnancy period, and most of the time this gestational diabetes may end once the delivery of the baby is over. So the chance of getting transmitted to the kid is very low. It is nothing. There's no called as the gestational diabetes getting transmitted to the child. It's not like that. So it is only the diabetes during the duration of pregnancy. Again, females who are with the gestational diabetes, one piece of advice is they are prone 50% chance that in the later life they may get diabetes. So most of the time what happens is once the delivery is over, the sugar levels get normal, they forget and they start having the normal food stuff what they were having. So again, once after 2-3 years when they check, the sugars are high, and again we need to start the medication. So when I suggest you have gestational diabetes, at least once in a year get your fasting blood sugars as well as HbA1c done, so that you have a proper monitoring.
Doctor, another question coming in. My HbA1c test is showing borderline high. What precautions do I need to take?
Nowadays there is nothing called as borderline or crossing the line. It is pre-diabetic, diabetes, and the over diabetes. So again, pre-diabetic means consider yourself as a diabetic, even though the doctor doesn't start medication when you're pre-diabetic, but you need to consider yourself in the food that you are a diabetic and follow the lifestyle how a diabetic follows, so that this pre-diabetes doesn't get converted into diabetes.
Hoping that we've answered your question. Also, a lot of questions coming in through. Right now, we're going to slip into a quick little break. You as well can send in your questions quickly before, we inch closer to the end of our conversations on 0586861003. We will see you in just a bit from now. Don't you go anywhere.
Daybreak, brought to you by Symbolic Zen Residences, Alpha John. Book your home and drive off in a Jetour T2.
Looking for a way to kick off your business? We can place your brand in front of 2.5 million people. Email connect@funasianetwork.com and we will get in touch with you. The Fun Asia Network means business. Your business.
This is Talk 100.3.
9:53, a very, very good morning to you and welcome once again to Daybreak. With me, Muriel Deesa, and this is Talk 100.3. We're part of the Fun Asia Network. Joining us in conversation for a timely one, this is diabetes among the youth. We're joined by Dr. Adeeb Mohammed Hussain, Specialist Internal Medicine, NMC Medical Center, Buhairah, Corniche, Sharjah, talking to us about lifestyle stress and, how do they actually contribute to diabetes in young people. Can diabetes, now a question to you, can diabetes be reversed?
There is no concept of reversal of diabetes, because whenever you are diagnosed with diabetes, a major chunk of the insulin producing capacity of the pancreas definitely goes out. So a lot of theories come up saying we will reverse the diabetes, or we will convert the diabetes into non-diabetic. There is no concept. The only thing is you can control your diabetes. You can control from the stage of pre-diabetes to going to diabetes with a healthy lifestyle. Once you are diagnosed with diabetes, so there is no concept of reversing the diabetes. Yes, the sugar may get controlled and your values may start coming into the normal range, but that doesn't mean you are non-diabetic and you stop medication and you go in for the lifestyle what you are following in the era of non-diabetic area. So you always have to consider, once you are diabetic, you are a diabetic. Only thing is it can be controlled and it can be held within the range of the lab values.
So there is also a concept, right, doctor? I mean, a lot of again, individuals say that the lesser food you eat, the better it is. But when you're diabetic, if you don't eat food, there's something called as hypoglycemia. I mean, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, and if you can help us understand these terminologies, what is a healthy range? What is an unhealthy range? What are healthy sugar levels that one must bear into mind?
So whenever a patient is diabetic, we always say him never to skip the meal, because the problem is a diabetic, you take medication to improve your diabetes. So the action of the drug is to produce insulin. So whenever you are hungry, you have to eat food. If you don't eat food, the insulin production from the body side will happen, and in spite of you're not taking food, you think to control the sugars, you take your tablet. So there is an insulin surge. When there is no glucose in the body and insulin is produced, so definitely the sugar levels will definitely drop. So I would always say sugar being high is still okay than going into low, because most of the time the sugar, when it goes low, many of the people will not know the symptoms, what is happening to them until it reaches to a peak where they, like, others have to see the symptoms and judge his sugars are high or low. So always sugar being on a little higher side is still okay for a diabetic, rather going in for a low sugar levels. So usual symptoms, if you are a diabetic, what you have to see is excessive sweating, tremors or blurring of vision. Then consider yourself that the sugar might be on a lower side. And I give a piece of advice to all my newly detected diabetic patients: whenever you have diabetes, tell somebody in the workplace, at your home, that you are diabetic. Never hide it, and always keep a chocolate or something in your pocket, sweet, so that whenever you have these minor symptoms, put a chocolate below your tongue or just start eating it so that the sugar rises. So this is very important, that hypoglycemia should never happen in a diabetic patient. Always keep a range of sugar between 150 to up to 200 is still okay in a diabetic patient.
All right. So after food, doctor, a lot of doctors say that you have to cut 120 mark. More than that, if you go, you're a diabetic. Are there any markers that help us understand what is pre-diabetic, what is diabetic? If you could please help us understand these markers for a diabetic.
So for the sugar, what we say is the mainstay of the diagnosis is the fasting blood sugar, where you fast for 8 to 12 hours and check your sugars. And if the sugar is less than 100 fasting sugar, definitely you are not a diabetic. And if it is less than 140 post-prandial, that is 2 to 2.5 hours of after having the meal, if your sugar is less than 140, then we say you are not a diabetic. Again, to confirm it, we do the HbA1c test. The pre-diabetic range is between 5.6 to 6.1, and if you are crossing 6.1, then it is like you are like a diabetic. Still, you can go on with the diet and the healthy lifestyle, but once it crosses 6.5, then definitely you are a diabetic and you need medication.
Doctor, people don't really realize, right? I mean, for example, a very basic thing. It's the mango season. It's a seasonal fruit. That's what I hear time and over again. And I know this because I am surrounded by diabetics, even in my house as well. And they said, oh, it's a seasonal fruit. You can eat as much as possible. It gets digested. These norms that change the stance where how you're consuming your sugars into your diet as well. Could you please help us understand or maybe bust a few of these myths that are a complete no-no for any diabetic?
So every food has a term called as glycemic index. So glycemic index is one thing, the amount of sugar that food has in it, and the amount, the duration it takes to dissolve the sugar in the body, to just say in a layman's language. So mango, I'm not promoting that you eat mango if you're a diabetic, but always mango is one thing where the sugars are easily digestible. The problem is why we don't tell patients to go in for mango, because mango is a fruit where people don't eat it in a small quantity. They eat it like it is, the quantity becomes more. So that is the reason we always try to tell the patients to avoid mango. So the sugars in the mango are not that bad like what you regularly eat the sugar. Still, a diabetic can have a portion of mango. There is no harm, provided that it is eaten in the breakfast or in the lunch. Avoid having these type of fruits in the dinner, because the glycemic index of these fruits is quite high.
So
the sugar the fruit has, and the time it takes to dissolve in the body. So the best foods are the berries, whichever berry you take, blackberry, blueberry, strawberries. These food have the very lowest glycemic index, and this fruit you can take it in a large quantity so that it doesn't affect your sugar levels. Second thing is oranges. They are also a very good source of vitamin C, as well as you can take it in a large portion so that it doesn't affect your sugar levels. The fruits that you have to avoid are again watermelon and your chiku. Grapes has the highest glycemic index. So many patients come to us and say whenever we take grapes, the sugar spikes up. Again, the sugar in the grapes is good, but it has a very, very high glycemic index. That is why whenever you take a bunch of grapes, the sugar rises, it peaks like anything. So you have to avoid watermelon, grapes, chiku and mango. Berries you can take in adequate quantity, it's not a problem. 1 apple per day is also okay. 1 banana per day is also okay. What I suggest is whenever you're taking a fruit, take it as a mono fruit, like one fruit at a time. Like most of us, we mix the number of fruits. So the ideal thing is to have 1 fruit per day.
So fruit juices are a complete no-no.
No, never.
All right, we're going to continue the conversation right here with Doctor. We're going to move into the next hour quite swiftly. We'll come back to share more news. Don't you go anywhere. My name is Mira Disa. You keep it locked, because this conversation, as I am already telling you, is extremely timely. Keep your questions flowing in on 0586861003. A very good morning.
This is Talk 100.3.
Henna Speedy Hair Colour, covering the changes in the world and covering changes in your hair right now. This is Fan Network News from the BBC.
BBC News with Roisin Hasty. President Trump is travelling to Beijing on the first trip to China by a US leader since he last went there in 2017. His talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping are likely to focus on Iran, Taiwan and trade tensions. President Trump has described some US media reporting on Iran as virtual treason. His social media post came after the New York Times reported that the Trump administration's portrayal of a shattered Iranian military was at odds with what US intelligence agencies were saying behind closed doors. The British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has defied calls to resign as he battles to retain his job in the face of growing dissent within the governing Labour Party. Sir Keir has received support from his deputy, David Lammy. The chief executive of OpenAI, Sam Altman, has told a court in California that he was increasingly unsettled by Elon Musk's demands for control of the company. He also denied Mr. Musk's claim that he broke an agreement to keep it as a non-profit. A coalition of public workers, farmers and indigenous people have blocked nearly 70 roads in Bolivia to protest against the rising cost of living. Some clashed with riot police in the city of El Alto, demanding President Rodrigo Paz's resignation. 2 teenage sisters from Gaza have won an environmental award for turning rubble into reusable bricks. Tala and Farah Musa live in a tent after their house was bombed. BBC News.
Fan Network News from the BBC. Henna Speedy Hair Colour. Your quick fix solution for changing back the lost colours of your hair in just 7 minutes. Talk 100.3. The day's agenda for the Emirates.
Are you ready?
This is Daybreak with Muriel Disa. Brought to you by Symbolic Development.
10:03 on the clock. A very, very good morning to you and welcome once again to Daybreak with me, joining me in, very, very heartfelt conversation. Why? Because it is timely and it is the time that we talk about diabetes. Among youth, we're joined by Dr. Adeeb Mohammed Hussain, a specialist internal medicine, NMC Medical Center, Buhairah, Corniche in Sharjah. Doctor, I have a question for you, and the reason why I ask you is because a lot of us love buying foods from the store, right? I mean, you pick up a packet, anything that is at eye level or in the aisle, we pick it up. But there are times that I have absolutely zero idea of what I'm buying because I can't understand the ingredients. Your suggestions would be? It's very tasty though, but I just don't know what I'm buying.
So whenever the food is tasty, I directly say that is unhealthy. So second thing is whenever you are buying a foodstuff which you don't know, which may look tempting with the packaging or with the color, you may get tempted. So most of the time nowadays it says low sugar or zero sugar. Again, if it is sweet, there should be some sweetener in it, or it should have something that it is tasting you sweet. It cannot be without sugar or the natural sugar which is tasting you. So if you just check the label, there is always, they say the sugar is 0 grams. But again, there are different varieties of sugar or sugar substitutes which nowadays are present in the market, which add to the taste of the foodstuff. So reading the label is very much important, and the amount of sodium in the foodstuff again is very much impacting nowadays lifestyle, and a lot of diseases, not only diabetes, other diseases in the young are also like a major reason. So always whenever you are buying a foodstuff which you don't know and it looks tempting, so always read the label.
Well, thank you for that, doctor. But also, whilst you're talking about reading the label, now we come from the Asian background, right? When the child is small, if the child hasn't put on weight, oh my gosh, we are all over the kid. We try stuffing food in the child's mouth just so that the child can grow into looking like fur balls. I don't know why, but we want fur balls in our house. And then the moment the child starts, developing that appetite and has, started getting that weight and has become a little bit chubby, and from chubby has become obese, then parents start worrying.
So there is no concept of force feeding the kid unless the kid is not eating properly. If the kid is having adequate meal to his age, I think so we should not force him to have more food or stuff him the food that is going to put on weight, because the mechanism what happens in the adults is same in the kids also. Whenever the glucose enters the body, the insulin has to come out and it has to digest, and the whole metabolism runs. There is no concept like if the kid is small, you feed him as much as possible and make him a fur ball, as you said. So if the baby of the kid is eating normally 3 times adequate for his age, I don't think so you need to push too much to him, because nowadays there is a concept of obesity in children or obesity in young. When that sets in, the diabetes in young concept starts, and once the baby is putting on weight, then again the reversing to bring down the weight, it takes a lot of time, because putting on weight is a very easy job and it is a less time consuming. Rather, like when you want to put down the weight, it takes a lot of time. So never force feed the child, or never try to make him look chubby just to you want to see beautiful. It doesn't mean that you feed him as much as possible.
Doctor, what about some children? Now, few children say could look proper on the weighing scale and all of that. But the moment you put them into any physical activity, right, they start to kind of heave a very, very heavy sigh of relief. They can't really run. They make it very difficult for them to run around, and they're panting for breath. Is that an area of concern?
Yes, definitely. So always we say the amount of exercise, how we have to consider ourselves that we are healthy. Like we have to compare ourselves to the age of our own age. Like if you are 20 years and the person next to you is also 20 years, if he is walking for a kilometer and you are not able to walk for a kilometer, then definitely you have something. So the problem with the kids is nowadays they are addicted to this social media and phones, and also they don't move around. So when you are sitting idle and your metabolism has become slow, and you suddenly tell them to run even a kilometer or just to walk for 2 to 3 kilometers uphill, definitely they start having these what you science told as like what we called as shortness of breath. That is because of the inactivity of the nowadays kid. So they should have at least 30 minutes of exercise per day, running around or having some physical activity for 30 minutes, so that these problems don't come up in their early adulthood or in the adolescent age.
Doctor, what if I get to know that my child, is pre-diabetic at the age of 1 or at the age of 2? Is there anything that I can do? Is that reversible at that age, or it's a point of no return?
See, there is no concept of pre-diabetes in children, or the 1 or 2 years is that they are toddlers. There is nothing called as pre-diabetic. Usually in this age group, the kids are like they show up only when they have a full-blown diabetes. That is what we call it as type 1 diabetes. So there is a very less chance that the child may show up the symptoms of pre-diabetes. So it is always a full-blown diabetes only we see in this age group.
Doctor, there's a question that has come in. Morning, doctor. Have a query. I'm not a diabetic, but I've stopped complete intake of sweets, chocolates, even tea with sugar. Instead of that, I am having the raw jaggery. Please advise. My age is 50 plus.
One good thing is you are on a healthy lifestyle. That is a very good thing. Again, whichever form of sweetener, whether it is sugar, jaggery, honey, once it goes into the body, the pancreas cannot differentiate it. So always we have to consider whatever sweetener we are taking is sugar itself. Even if you are taking honey, many people say honey is good, jaggery is good. Yes, definitely. When you compare to the raw sugar, the glycemic index may be different, but again, it has the same impact. What the white sugar may have on your body, the same impact applies to honey as well as jaggery or brown sugar or any form of sweetener. So if you are age 50 and you are having a healthy lifestyle, it is well and good. Try to reduce the amount of jaggery what you are using, and that could be helpful.
Interesting. Another question. Are chocolates good or bad for you?
Chocolates, again, you have to see whether it is a natural chocolate, what we call it is cocoa, and if that is the case, and if it most of the time the chocolates have a lot of other mixtures into it. If you read the label again, you can see there are artificial sweeteners in it, there is a flour in it, and other chemicals or something which add on to the taste. So that is definitely not good. Okay, if you are taking chocolate which is non-sweetened and it has at least 30% of cocoa, then it's definitely good.
Interesting. Anything else, doctor, that we need to bear in mind? Obviously, we are speaking about chocolates, but anything else that you feel is a complete no-no to look into, say, as a diabetic, as a pre-diabetic, that you would want to advise right now?
Nowadays in the market, when you go into a supermarket, you see stuff called as zero sugar, no sugar. I would always recommend people not to take those food stuff, because definitely they say zero sugars, but again it is not only the sugars that is impacting our lifestyle, it is the added preservatives or additives what they are putting to enhance the taste and the sweetener, that is completely that's going to impact our sugars in the coming days. So whatever the food stuff they are promoting as zero sugar or no sugar, and like for example, if a fruit juice, if you say it is zero sugar, definitely it will not have 100% fruit concentrate. It is some amount of powder or chemical they have used. So always read the label, and if the quantity of the fruit what they are using is at least 50 to 60%, then it is still okay. But if it is just says by zero sugar and you are buying and consuming it, is you are adding calories to your body, which is again impacting directly or indirectly to your diabetes.
Again, once again, for children, Doctor, you did mention a lot of things around children since we're talking about young adults. If we have to talk to you about their diets, couple of foods that you advise parents not to even introduce to them at a younger age. We see parents introducing a lot of chocolates to them, introducing them to chips because it is fast food, a lot of fried food even. What is it that you want parents to pay close attention to?
Most of the time parents think as a child we can give everything is safe. It is not the case. The most problem in nowadays what we think we have is the processed food is easy to cook. We just take out from the fridge or freezer, we either air fry it or we fry it and give it to the kid. That is definitely a no. Any processed food to the kid, like to an extent is okay, but if you are crossing those limits, then definitely it is very harmful. Again, fast food, we think fast food is well and go for them, but again it is it's going to having a major impact in their early adulthood or in the teenagers age. So what I suggest is you should have a healthy balanced lifestyle for them. So if at all they are eating something junk, that also should have a proper disciplined intake of that. It's not that every day you are giving them. Once in a week or once in fortnight or once in a month is still okay. They should not be exposed to like regularly they are having it, and it should not become a food on the go, like you just take this, eat and finish your meal. It should not happen. And the foremost important food which I always say never to introduce is the soft drinks.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor. I think you and I could go on for ages conversing around diabetes in youngsters, but it is a timely conversation and more power to you. Thank you for raising concerns around this subject.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, we will see you in just a bit from now. Coming up next is the Talk Biz Hour. We'll be back to share more news with you. Don't you go anywhere. My name is Meerul Disa. You're listening to Talk 100.3. We are part of the Fun Asia network. And coming up next, like we've already mentioned, is the Talk Biz Hour.
Daybreak, brought to you by Symbolic Zen Residences, Alpha John. Book your home and drive off in a Jetour T2. The latest up-to-the-minute business news, analysis and opinion from the best up-to-the-minute business news, analysis and opinion from the BBC. Talk Business, exclusively on Talk 100.3.
Is the Iran war starting to show up on American household bills?
You're going to see the golden age of America.